Hi, kia ora, good morning. I've been up for a couple of hours. I fell asleep quite early, but then I woke up and, yeah, I'm gonna go back to sleep once I've done this, but I always know when I get woken up I'm being told to pay attention, as you know, so I've been paying attention. I had a really interesting dream though before I began, where I was walking in a park surrounded by just all different kinds of wildlife, but it was like an English country park, and there were just like foxes and deer and wolves and dogs and cats and like all sorts of animals just walking around this park, but like the animals were going on a tour of the park. And I went up, excuse me, I went up this bit and I saw Amber dressed as a goth, which is so not Amber, but she was dressed as a goth and she didn't say anything, but I was thinking, like, just let her do her thing. And we walked into this church, this beautiful, like, old medieval style church, and she climbed up the belfry, and people were looking at her as if to say, what the hell's she doing in a church? She doesn't belong here. And I was sort of getting defensive. And I thought, if anyone gives this girl any shit, I'm 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 gonna go ballistic on them. And she just started ringing this church bell, and she was so good at it. And she never said a word. She was dressed as a goth, which makes me laugh because of Amber. And she just was ringing this church bell, and it was beautiful. So yeah, she's not she's not talking in her dreams. She's not in my dreams. She's not presenting herself the right way like she used to in my dreams previously. And I really think it's because she's getting ready to come back down. I really think that she's getting ready to be conceived or birthed. Oh, I hope she chooses me. So her identity is starting to change. I'm remembering her as Amber, but she's starting to morph and manifest into somebody else. Oh, I hope it's my Roisin. I really do. So, anyway, while I was just sticking about on YouTube, just listening to just all sorts of random stuff about Donald Trump's meltdown, how Elon Musk is a fraud on paper, how they keep making out like, he's a trillionaire, but he actually owes a ton in debt, and he's only a trillionaire on paper, and he's a fraud, and, all this sort of thing, as well as some police camera footage things, because sometimes I get inspired for my writing, but also, excuse me, for my connecting the dots kind of unsolved mysteries inside history sort of inspirations and all that. So, my YouTube watching is varied. Sometimes I just like to watch blackheads be popped. Extracted, rather. If you do it right, you extract, not pop. Um, and for some reason, I just clicked on this video about a woman who was talking about this encounter that she keeps having at this Target in America, and how these three men were starting to try and corner her, and she feels like she was about to be kidnapped. And she was telling this horrendous story, and how they got, how she got the store involved and all of that. And then I clicked on another video because, the algorithm, and these women talking about various instances, and then it came up about the honey traps or the honey pots, depending on what you want to call them. Honey trap, honey pot, it's the same thing. But it's basically where, you know, you meet men online, or women as well, it's not just men, and then they love bomb you and talk you into a relationship and then start trying to manipulate your life in a way where they pull you away from your family. And I know this because it happened to me. And when I knew what was going on, I need my. This is why I walk myself into so much trouble. My brain needed to understand. Are we just talking about catfishing? People wanting, you know, who get a kick out of controlling people's emotional state and mental state and all that, or are we talking about actual human trafficking? And what I noticed in my particular instance, in my particular case with the Yodok cello thing, they use the identity of celebrities, right? But I needed to know because there was a clear connection between the person impersonating Yodok cello and somebody else who was pretending to be, I'll just call him Tunisia man. There was a connection there, and I needed to connect those dots to find out how much danger other people were in, because one of them was asking for money, but the both of them were asking to lure me away from the country that I'm living in, trying to lure me out of the United Kingdom, trying to isolate me from my children, trying to isolate me from, you know, and so I had to play a very, very, very dangerous game because I have raised my boys. My boy and I were talking about this the other day. Because of my work with human trafficking and the kids and the whole Epstein Island and all of that, you know, going all the way back to like 2015, 16. Like it got really heavy for me 2016. But I was starting to be pulled into it from 2013 to 15. But 2016 is when the military boys started coming to me. And I was dealing with, like, you know, border patrol. And because I was gaining a reputation for being the woman that could help these people in law enforcement deal with the PTSD of what they were dealing with in their work. And so word was getting around. And so I had like a little group, you know, like I did a Umedy, UMEDY. I did a online counselling course just so that I could be at my best for my boys, which is, you know, why I can do the counselling and that, because I do have I did an online course in counselling through Umedy or Umedy, however you pronounce it. My certificate is on my old laptop. I just never printed it off. So I had always, my boys have, I've never hidden what I did with my boys, though they never saw evidence of anything. They just saw my interactions with my boys and, you know, people online and the aftermath and, you know, them asking questions. And because I have never ever censored my boys, they are free to say what they like and do what they like. Freedom of expression. The only time I will interject is if I see a bit of their father poking through, but I know that I've raised my boys to be smart enough to know that what's a joke and what's not, what's socially acceptable and what's not. And that now that they're teenagers and that they're at the age now where they know that they are to be held personally responsible for the things that they say or do, because you know, you have to teach your children about consequences and what happens if you say or do the wrong thing. I've been like that with them ever since I was a mother. You smacking them and that, like, it did no good. It did no good. And when I saw signs of my mother coming through, I immediately stopped it. And so I turned to putting them on the naughty step and removing things from them, but then came up with the mummy shop, the reward system instead, and that worked way better than any form of putting them on the naughty step or, you know, smacking them on the bottom or anything like that could ever do. They behaved immediately when they knew that at the end of every week on a Friday, I would bring the mummy shop out where they got to use their mummy money to buy rewards. And but the same went that if they did anything that was negative or wrong, they would lose mummy money on the chart, because I had like a big wall chart, and I would, you know, put a tick every time they earned the money, and then they would add it all up on the Friday, because obviously maths and homeschooling, and then I would bring the box out and they would get to choose their rewards and that was when my children were 3, 4, 5 years old. So they've been earning pocket money since they were 2. And that worked better than any form of punishment. And after that, like, my kids were just easy to raise. Once I figured out their language, so then because I never hid anything from them, because it is absolutely imperative that children teach their kids about stranger danger, and because we're living in a world with online technology and all kids have phones and game stations and, you know, like iPads and all that sort of thing, they need to know the dangers young. And I have always taught my children about the dangers young, whether it was from why you don't go near an oven, especially when it's on, why you don't mess about with kettles and jug cords and fireplaces and all of that, through to, you know, don't talk to strangers, don't answer the door to a stranger, don't talk to people online. Don't send images of yourself online. Be careful what you say. Be careful what you do. Even if these people are your friends for years, make sure that you don't share anything with them that can be used against you in the future, because some of these people will be honeypots or honey traps. I'll just say honey traps. But, you know, they lure you in, and then they get in your head, and then they start isolating you, and then, you know, they share the photos and that. And the thing is, with in this day and age with AI, so much can be faked, and they only need a photo of your face to turn your face into an entire OnlyFans page of the pornographicals, and, you know, the dark web underage stuff. And then because we know some of these kids, then when they start saying no, they get blackmailed, and then they're humiliated and they take their own lives, you know. So I have always made my boys to be very, very aware of what they say or do and share online, because of the work that their mummy does, you know, with the human trafficking. But in the case of Yodok Cello, and then, like I was saying, remember, I'm going to forget his name. Is it the K-pop dude? The way that I was seeing some of these women online thinking that they were having these full-blown relationships with these famous men like Elon Musk and, is it John Cook? John, oh God, because I don't follow the K-pop thing, and I'm no longer on X. John Cook, is it, from the K-pops? Um, it piques my interest because this is my area. Human trafficking is my area, and it's not just children, and it's not just women either, because, you know, there are plenty of cases. Because the human trafficking, you know, there's a lot of men who hide their homosexuality, who want boys and men. But then also as well, you have to understand that human trafficking isn't just about sex and selling sex. It can also be for forced labour, slave labour. It can also be for medical experiments and scientific experiments. Bill Gates, for example, he had a lab on Epstein Island where taking DNA and working with eugenics and all that. And also it can be for getting sperm and eggs from the ovaries. Elon Musk. And also sacrifices, for human sacrifices. So human trafficking isn't just about the sexuals. And pimping, online pimping. Now, one of the reasons why this is even more important to me is because two of my ex-husbands were involved in these very tactics, and it's one of the reasons why they came after me. Now, they both had sexual interactions with the paedophile in my life, Rocio, as did my best friend, ex-best friend. But Martin especially, he was the one that was grooming for trafficking, because he was the one that grooms the women to give their bodies to other men and women, and that is a form of human trafficking. He gets into relationships with these women, both of them targeting women over a certain age or women with low self-esteem, women with daddy issues, women with trust issues. Chris targets single mothers, especially if they're empathic and down on their luck. Martin, it's usually older women. I know with the fake identity Yodok Cellos and the Jung Cook, oh, I'm sorry if I got his name wrong, targeting older women, lonely, low self-esteem, that sort of thing. I'm none of those things. They walked, they, I was the perfect target for them. Because the role that they're used to playing and the targets that they picked wasn't me. I was their opponent and they didn't know it. I was the one who was designed to expose what they were doing and who they were. So, with the whole quote unquote armour thing and the Tia Darling paper dolls, paper doll productions and all of that, with the online BDSM, the fetishes and all of that. Some of the victims will get targeted for particular fetishes, by the way, which was Martin and Chris. They were, targeted women for specific fetishes that would inevitably involve other men. But with Martin especially, he was human trafficking and grooming for essentially pimping the women out, which is why when he left, I felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders, because I was only just starting to figure out something wasn't right, but I wasn't given the chance to complete or fully step into my intuition, and I was saved. Um, Whoever it was that was impersonating Cello was using AI voices, and they, when they don't want a video chat, when they don't want to talk on the phone, that sort of thing, they're all the red flags, and that's what I was taking notice of, because he was trying to, because see, one of the things that the honey traps do is, I need money for this or I need money for that. They create an emergency situation where they need you to fund them they end up getting themselves in financial situations where what little money you give them, it's not enough. I never gave anyone money. I refused. Don't you want to meet me? Don't you want to live with me in my country? I'm like, no. I wouldn't pay along, and then they'd get all shitty with me, but I'd be like, no. I was just there to gather evidence so I could take my case to the law when I had to, and with Yodok Cello, it was gaining access to emails and social media accounts where, they were looking for, which traced back to Martin again, by the way, um, where they were looking for ways to get into your bank accounts. I never kept my credit cards or debit cards or anything like that on any of my social media, but they look for, when you're buying things online, and that's where the honeypot comes in, because honeypot can be online trapping for passwords and that sort of thing, and the honey trap is, they offer you the honey before they trap you. And this is what I was trying to do with Yodok. I was trying to figure out, I was able to link, I don't know if they were using VPNs and that, but I've been able to like pinpoint locations where hits were coming off things. I've been able to narrow it down to private email addresses and that sort of thing, and I've just been sitting on it, waiting. But yeah, so I'm going to I've posted the videos up, but I'll put the links. Regardless of whether you're a woman or a child or a man, you need to watch them, because they do target men. They do target boys, especially teenage boys. And as a mother with teenage boys, like, I take this stuff very seriously. Whereas my ex-husband was handing my children to the groomers. I got a message from my boy a few years ago, where he said, Mum, some random friend of Dad's has just hit me up on PlayStation. What do I do? And I said, block him immediately. And he goes, okay, done. My boys would always come to me, like on Instagram. When my son Thomas was 11 or 12, he was bombarded with women trying to do the pornographicals with him and that. And even though it clearly said that his Instagram was monitored by his parents, they were just coming out of nowhere. And it was to the point where it would be like 6, 7, 8 at a time. His Instagram, he'll be able to show you, for his, dozens of them that came after him knowing that he was a child. But now I know what. Oh, sorry. And Chris was introducing them to my boys, bringing them to my boys. People making and designing and selling sex toys and that, and Chris was bringing my boys around them because he was grooming Thomas. He couldn't groom Gabriel because Gabriel isn't as easy to manipulate emotionally, whereas Thomas, just like, he's like his mum. He's got a heart. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's just, so I have to be more vigilant in my protection of Thomas, because Gabriel is more, you have to earn his attention and his respect and his, whereas Thomas is like me. He gives you the benefit of the doubt until you prove yourself otherwise. So I've put links in, and you need to be talking to your kids about this stuff, especially if they go to school by themselves, or, they stop at the shop. In my day, I used to be able to take myself into town, 9, 10, 11 years old, go on my bike, go to the supermarket by myself. Didn't have a problem with it. You can't do that nowadays because they're everywhere. And America especially is the biggest provider and supplier of human trafficking victims. Statistically, it's middle-aged, wealthy white men who buy what the traffickers are selling in America. And it's coming from countries like Ukraine, and also, believe it or not, France and Germany, the Netherlands, Greenland, Iceland. Remember the whole Venezuela Bella One thing, Keir Starmer and all that. They provide more victims for human trafficking than the Middle East and Africa do. And Keir Starmer is a supplier, and DP World is one of the shipping companies that they use. So you need to be teaching your children these uncomfortable, stranger danger. It's not just in real life, it's online as well. And I've told you the story about when I lived in Alexander Street. The very day my best friend Kevin and I were taught about stranger danger in school, that man tried to get us to get in his car. And I have been on it with the pedophiles and the human trafficking ever since. I still remember his car to this day. It looked like a land whale, it was kind of like a lighter colour of butter, like buttermilk colour. And his car was huge, and he opened the car door and said to me and Kevin, because we were both blonde-haired and blue-eyed. Well, I can't remember if he was. I know he was blonde, fair-haired. I was blonde, blue-eyed. And he said, "Your mum has asked me to give you a lift. Your mum has asked me to give you a ride home." And we both looked at each other, which was weird because we literally just lived across the road. All we had to do was cross the road, walk a few steps and turn right, and our houses were just like right there. Like it wouldn't even take 2 minutes to get home. And so we just ran, and he booked it. Like he just took off down the road. And I don't know what Kevin did, but I went home and told my mum, and then my mum called the school, and I don't know what happened after that. But ever since then, ever since then, I believe that I was being set up at that age for human trafficking to be something I was going to be needing to get involved in later on. So, of course, as you know, when I knew that I wanted to build these safe houses for the children that we were able to rescue, and we will take any victim of human trafficking. I'm not going to just leave men at the door or young guys at the door just because they're male adults. If you're a victim of human trafficking, we will have a safe house for you. It's just that children are the ones that they want most, children and young girls and young boys. But if you're a victim of human trafficking, we will have safe houses for you. You will have a place to go until we can get you back home and all that sort of thing. So in order to fund these safe houses, because I don't want the government involved in any of the funding, because the government are the human traffickers. The government are the ones making the money from the trafficking, supplying the victims, and also buying the victims. So I had to come up with a way to build these safe houses where the government aren't providing any money, so they can't have any say, but also where the taxpayer doesn't have to pay for it as well. That's when I came up with my art school. We'll make movies, we'll make video games, we'll make TV shows, we'll make musicals, we'll put on performances and that. And it's the Kids Helping Kids Foundation, fundamentally. Getting the kids on board to come and help me do these things so that we can help the kids that we will be rescuing. And that's what I called it. FIRE, the Foundation Arts and Entertainment Academy, is basically the Kids Helping Kids Foundation. And that begins with The Night of the Black Sun, which originally I thought was based on Bill Gates, which it still kind of is, sort of. But then I realised later on it was actually about Donald Trump, and we know about Donald Trump and Epstein Island, don't we? It's all starting to come out about him now anyway. So The Night of the Black Sun is our version of Live Aid, where the kids in that will be putting on on stage performance of this musical, The Night of the Black Sun, which we will eventually turn into a horror movie about a zombie apocalypse, to raise money and awareness for human trafficking. And, you know, even though the concert itself might only go for like 2 hours, we'll spread it out to about 4 hours, because we'll put in, obviously, like, you know, we'll put in like talkovers and narrations, and if we can, put it on a big screen. You know, like they did in Live Aid, where they talked about in Ethiopia and the famine and all of that, how they would stop midway and put up little adverts in that. They also do it with like Red Nose Day and Children in Need. They do the performances and then they stop it for a little bit to talk about the reason why they're doing the fundraiser. We'll be doing the same thing, but in regards to human trafficking, and it will involve things like some of the things that these people are talking about in the videos. I'm going to put a link in the description box below about, so that the parents can sit with their kids while the children are learning, and also men and women as well, because once you learn it, you'll look for the signs and you'll be more aware when you're out shopping. It puts you on high alert, but everyone can learn together. And I'll get people who, you know, who work in human trafficking, who, you know, work for like Border Patrol, for example, where they have to deal with the human trafficking. For the people who work for, I won't say missing and exploited children, because they're part of it. The ones that I know I can trust from past experience. So, you know, we'll get law enforcement people in. We'll get the, you know, people whose job it is, task force and that, whose job it is to catch the traffickers, and we'll get victims on who are brave enough. Either we can make them anonymous or not, just their voice, or blur out their face and that, where they can talk about their personal experiences, and then get the experts on to the warning signs, the red flags. This is what you need to look out for. And then everybody who listens, which is why it's broadcast over the radio and, you know, online, so that people can tune in and listen to the concert if they don't come and watch it be performed live at the outdoor arena. Everyone's learning together, and I would encourage the parents to bring their children and let their children listen, because we'll be educating everyone. So yeah, so my ex, Martin, he's a human trafficker. He's a honeypot, honey trap. And so is Chris. And the both of them are working together with a paedophile and a child groomer. So you need to do the maths, people, and then say to yourself, oh, so that's why they tried to kill her. That's why they had to try and shut her up. So, because of my experience with all of that, when the fake Yodok cellos started coming into my life, I had to pay attention, because I was seeing repeating patterns in the fake Yodok cellos and the other men who were trying to approach, like that Bowen Kingsley, I think his name is. I've still got all his emails, who tried to send me child pornographicals, and I knew immediately that he was trying to set me up. And I flew into a rage. I was so disgusted. I blocked him, and then he started emailing me and saying, oh, I only sent you the video because of this, that, and the other thing, and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, sending me fake AI photos of, I had to take my mother to the doctor, and, you know, it's going to cost this amount, and, you know, pretending to be this upstanding citizen. And, yeah, going by the name of Bowen Kingsley. I do believe possibly it was identity theft, But I've still got the emails. I can even put up. Actually, you know what? I will put the emails up of this conversation where he was trying to beg me to unblock him, and he was sorry for sending me the child. It was on WhatsApp. I was furious with this beautiful little girl on the table. She was about 3 years old with this he had olive skin, and he was ready to go in, if you know what I mean. And I've had a lifetime of seeing that sort of shit, and I didn't want to see any more, and I flew into a rage, and I blocked him. And then he emailed me begging me to give him another, like, I still want to be your friend and blah blah blah. But I knew I was being set up for something. Immediately the alarm bells went off. And then it was a couple of years later, as I started speaking out about it on Instagram and everything, that's when Chris and Martin and Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Jose and that did what they did. Came after me, started clamping me down. And then, of course, money started disappearing from refunds. Money started disappearing when I was paying bills. I've got to apply for my passport soon. I'm terrified. I said, I said to my friend the other day, because my phone's hacked, I don't know what they're going to try and have access to. Are they going to mess with my visa? Are they going to mess up my passport application? Because I have to do it all online now. Anything I do online involving my credit card now, or my debit card, sorry. I mean, I got to save the 147 quid to get it done in the first place, but I need to renew my passport. And because they've gained access to my bank account, they've got access to Facebook and my old Instagram. Yeah, and that's how they did it. But you have to understand, I knew, but I had to allow it to happen because I knew that, and having to go to the bank and having to go to British Gas and having to send out the emails to Deliveroo and all that sort of thing, I'd have a paper trail. So, and that's what I've got, my paper trail. So I know what I'm doing. It's just that I did it knowing that I was gonna risk losing my Facebook, which I don't care because I don't care about Facebook anyway, other than the fact that I can't talk to my brother. And my old Instagram, I mean, they've taken so many social medias and my WordPress and that from me because of the fact I was working on the Epstein stuff. I lost my Facebook because I put up a post about Tom Hanks, and they said, we're shutting your Facebook down because I put up a post about Tom Hanks. And I lost my Instagram because I put up that post about Epstein Island and the Sugar Daddies Toy Boy sex club that involved Keir Starmer, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and that Wayne James, who worked with Epstein, Jean-Luc Brunel, and who Zelensky and the Ukrainian rent boys, because it's what I do. And so that's why they came after me, and that's why Keir Starmer's after me. And Donald Trump, like, now you know. So, but I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop until I get my school. And the NHS were complicit. So I was saying the other day, how many kids have died since they started trying to stop me and slow me down? How many people have been stolen and kidnapped and killed and sacrificed and vaccinated to death? since they started trying to stop me from doing what I was doing, it'll be millions. Unfortunately, it will be millions. So they all have blood on their hands. But as Odin said, you don't need to deal with it anymore. That's up to us. Let us deal with them. You just focus on what you're doing. And what I'm focusing on is building my school. I just need to find somewhere to build it. But if I can get rid of Donald Trump and Elon Musk, because there is talks of Musk being deported, if I can get rid of them, then, maybe I can go back to the original plan of moving to South Dakota. I'm taking my boys and getting a clean slate. So, I don't know at this point, but I'm focusing on what I'm going to do once I get there. And the first thing I'm going to do is put on this concert. So, once I get out of here and I can get Wi-Fi and, have a rest and charge my batteries back up and get everything kosher with my boys and that, then I'll finish writing the musical. I'll find a composer and musicians and all of that while setting up my games company and my IT company and my production company, and we can start getting stuff made before I've even found somewhere to build. It gives me time to find somewhere, but I'm hoping, like if it is America and it's South Dakota, I already know where I want to build. I've already found the perfect property. I just hope it's still for sale. I'm too scared to look. But there's a lot of ghost towns in America for sale that are perfect. So, so I'll put links in the description box below. Watch the videos, know the signs, and get your children made aware, like I made my children aware. But yeah, Martin is what they called them a honey pimp. He's a honey pimp. A honey trap for human trafficking. And like I said, human trafficking isn't just about being kidnapped. It's sexual exploitation, getting you to sell your body for money to pay off debts, and he had drug debts while he was in prison. And that's the whole Yodok Cello Armour thing. Well, no, Armour it never asked for money, but the fake Yodok Cellos did. I never gave it though. They tried to use the emotional manipulation of, but don't you want to meet me? Don't you want to marry me? And I'm like, no. Homie don't play that. But it was fun. Because they were getting infuriating because they used to, when they do they do the love bombing and then they won't talk to you for a few days because they want you to go running back to them. Begging for their attention. I never did stuff like that. I'd just yell at them and then storm off. I didn't play the game the way they expected to. But like I said, now it's all documented. I have the evidence. I have the proof. And in a couple of these cases regarding Yodok Cello, it came back to my ex-husband, well, my husband, soon to be ex-Martin Archie. So he hooked up his Facebook to my Facebook. I was getting alerts from his family members, Jeanette and all that, through my email account from his Facebook because he synced it all up. So, yeah, so when the whole Yodok Cello thing came about and I got blocked out, when I, went to reset the password and everything, it came all back to him. Yeah, so, and he's got a lot of women online. When I set up his Facebook, it was hundreds of women all over a certain age because he had set up email dating pen pal club with his friend Chris. I've already showed you the evidence for that. The letter he wrote looking for pen pals and stuff, and then he was giving them their Facebook, and he wanted me to get jealous, but that's when I started realizing there was something not going, there was something not right, something wasn't right. And then of course later I found out that he ended up with the child groomer and the paedophile, two separate women. And then that's when the penny started dropping. And then the way he was needing me to send him money, and the way that he was trying to talk me into doing things with other men, and trying to get permission to pass me off to other men, and then bringing women in on it and that sort of thing. At first I thought it was just like a fetish thing, like he was just a bit sick and twisted, and I wasn't going to play that game. And then, of course, later on, I realised, oh my God, he's a human trafficker. Him and Chris, they're human traffickers. And then, yeah, so then all hell broke loose. So I need to get my boys away. But when the people you're supposed to go to for help are also involved in the human trafficking and the grooming, they either supply the children or they abuse the children, i.e., the court system, the police, social services. Hundreds of thousands of children go missing every year once they're signed up to once social services are brought in. They take the kids off the parents, like Zelensky does, takes the children off the parents, and then the parents never see them again. They end up on a DP World shipping container, and Keir Starmer and his military give them safe passage to send them off to America so that people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk can do horrendous things to them. And our king's like, yay, Ukraine! Retarded. So he's now very nicely embedded in with the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing because he didn't listen. And that's not even the half of it with Ukraine. We're also talking about genocide. And he's like, yay, genocide! Because clearly he knows more than someone who spent her entire life dealing with it. It's quite arrogant, hey, to think that because you're a king you know better than everybody else. But anyway, I mean, that's his karma is his own. I've paid off my karmic debt. I owe nobody nothing out there in the universe. I've paid it all off. I've worked on my. I've sat in purgatory. I've had to tear my life down and rebuild it so many times. I've paid off all my karmic debt. I have nothing to be ashamed of. I've worked through it all. So now I just get to focus on the end result. And for me, it's saving children from human trafficking, but we will save anyone. We'll give safe passage to anyone. And I want to fund it myself, so the taxpayer and the government don't have to get involved. We'll have the scholarships and that. So, because originally I was going to get the government, like the state of Georgia, so to say, just hypothetically, or the county of Yorkshire, to pay for this student and that student and this student for the accommodation and food and that. But I don't even want that anymore. We're just through the Kids Helping Kids Foundation and through our fundraisers and auctions and all our performances and everything, our festivals and that we do, they'll pay for the scholarships. So the countries and the governments and the taxpayer from their countries won't have to pay a bloody thing. We just need permission to get them out of the country to come and stay with us for a year under like a education scholarship. Because they'll learn skills and trades and stuff based on whatever their gifts and talents are. and I will 100% fund it myself. So I had to come up with lots of different ways to do that, and then they tried to steal some of that stuff too. The Dear Satan cause and my books and my products, and they try to copy my science, they try to pretend to be me, steal my identity, AI photo generated bullshit, use my voice and things, but it's not going to stop me. The one thing Elon Musk doesn't want more than anything in the world is for me to set up my space program. Well, that's too bad because his is going to get shut down. People are going on about how he's a trillionaire, but he's not. He really isn't. He owes hundreds of billions in debt, and you can't call yourself a trillionaire if you're in debt. And if he is a trillionaire, is he able to withdraw all that money out of the bank? Because he wouldn't be able to. So that doesn't make him a trillionaire. And it's like the guy said, he's a trillionaire on paper, but in reality, he's in debt. But he doesn't want you to know that. And smart people understand that, and dumb people don't. Dumb people are greedy, and all they see is money, 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 money. Whereas smart people are like, he's not a trillionaire because he couldn't even withdraw $1 million from his bank and keep it in his wallet. Just because it says on a screen doesn't mean that it's tangible. It's not tangible wealth, is what I'm trying to say. All his businesses are in debt and hemorrhaging money, so he has no tangible wealth. He won't own, he had owned lots of properties. Does he own them outright? Did he pay cash for them all? Does he own no money on those properties? Or does he have loans and stuff like that? He's a trillionaire if he's got $1 trillion in tangible wealth, but he doesn't. So he's not a trillionaire. But people aren't smart enough to figure, well, some of us are. All the rest just see money, 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 because they're blinded by greed, which is why greed is a vice and not a virtue. The virtue, the opposite of vice, is the virtue, and the virtue to greed is charity. And that's what I am. Everything I'm building is basically a charity where we give the public, the paying public, enough reasons to want to come and fund our charity. Just like if we were Goodwill or the Dogs Trust or the RSPCA, with people donating their clothes and that, well, we are donating our time and our talent so that people will come in and say, yep, I'll buy that time and that talent. I'm going to give that money, time and talent, because I know that the money is going to go to safe houses for victims of human trafficking. So in a way, what Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Chris and Martin and that did to me wasn't a bad thing, because now the whole world knows that they're involved with the Epstein files. The whole world knows that they were in on the whole Epstein thing, which is why they came after me. And before, when I first started in my blog days and that, nobody knew about the Epstein list. Very few people were talking about it. And what was being said, everyone said I was crazy. But then Trump got in the second time and everything started getting exposed. And now everybody in the world, the entire world knows, because he's fighting an Epstein war in Iran. It's literally called the Epstein War. And Keir Starmer is there with his little ships helping get involved, because he's a human trafficker. Because the only people getting involved in Iran are the human traffickers. France, Germany, UK, America, Israel, Ukraine. Because I know what I'm talking about, because this is my life's work. I know what I'm talking about. So by them going first, by them doing what they did to me, I got to sit back and let everything be exposed about them, so that by the time I step in and put all my stuff out there tangibly, people will know I'm going to that concert, because, like, this is making world history. We were all involved in watching this whole Jeffrey Epstein thing hit the papers and social media around the world for years. Donald Trump and Keir Starmer and Netanyahu started a war to try and distract people from it in Iran. And so I want to be a part of this concert because it's making history. And I created it all on my own. And I've written this musical all by myself. I became a composer all by myself, and I wrote it all by myself with a little help from my boys coming up with the stories and stuff. And my son and I were going to have our roles. We were going to walk out on stage and perform this in front of everyone, nervous as all hell, but being there to support each other because it means something to us. Even on the cop cam, the day they locked me up, my little boy said to me, "Remember who you're doing this for, Mum?" They even told social services, when this is over, we're going to America and we're going to save the children. And so what did they do? Try and kill their mother. Because they were all in on it. So I fought long and hard to get to the top of this mountain. But I'm nearly there. And you can hear me yodeling at the top already. So just get ready, because once I know where I'm going, my feet aren't going to hit the ground. I've got so much to do. I'm going to need a lot of hands on deck. And I said to my boy the other day, I'm ready to start looking for investors. I've been working out in my head, my presentation to send to potential investors to say, would you like to invest in building this school? I won't let just anybody invest. I'm not going to let just anybody donate money. If Elon Musk said, I'll give you like 200 million, pfft. If I'm getting to the point where I'm getting ready to build my school, hopefully he's either in purgatory, hell, or jail. So, yeah, so I'm going to make me a coffee now. I'm going to start getting yelled at by the crows any minute. So I'll put the links in the description box below. But now you know. Now you know the truth about everything. And the reasons why. Why I've been fighting so hard. And why they've been fighting to stop me. And who was involved. And what they were trying to get me involved in. And my sons. And what they got other people involved in. My brothers and sisters now have to live with the guilt that they took the side of human traffickers that I was stupidly married to, but that's why they're dead to me. My brothers and sisters are dead to me, other than my brother George. And my sister Erin, obviously. They're dead to me. Because I was literally told to sit down, shut up, and just take it. Just take the medication, don't fight the doctors. Do what Chris needs you to do. Do it for the boys, Debbie, I'm begging you. Quote unquote. Do it for the human traffickers, Debbie. I'm like, no. Nah. Like, what kind of sick, twisted mind thinks it's better to go along with what the bad folks want just because you would never have the guts to stand up and fight for your children or your reputation? I'm not a go-with-the-flow kind of person like that. I'm not a sheeple. And that's why they hate me, because I don't do as I'm told. If I don't agree with what they're doing, if it goes against my morals and principles and ethics and, if it makes me lack integrity in any kind of way? No. No, thank you. I'm non-compliant because I'm right. Because God's never wrong. And I'm God's messenger. And they're all going to pay. And they will fund what I'm building. And they will all be the ones funding me putting on this concert. So the storyline's pretty much already written. I just need to finish writing the songs. I've just been so busy dealing with all this other stuff. I haven't had time to sit and finish writing my operas and my musicals and all of that. But I've been coming up with little movies and that in the meantime, just to keep myself busy while I sit in my bubble waiting for justice. But it'll come. So I'm going to go. And I shall speak to you later, but now you know. Ka kite.